Ask the Podcast Coach for July 4th, 2020.
Let's get ready to podcast.
There it is. It's that fun-filled music. I need the sound effect of like fireworks or something going off here, but it's Saturday. It's time for Ask the Podcast Coach, where you get your podcast questions answered live. I'm Dave Jackson from the School of Podcasting.com, and joining me right over there is the one and only Jim Cullison from theaverageguy.tv. Jim, how's it going, buddy?
Greetings, Dave. Happy Saturday morning to you. Happy July 4th, which in the UK is not, it's not the biggest holiday in the world, but here in the United States, it's big. With the pandemic going on, what I'm understanding, many public fireworks displays have gotten canceled. They're just not doing them. Yeah. Or they're doing them, I guess in New York City, they're doing them, but they're not telling them where they're doing it from. So because they don't want people gathering, right? So what that means is a gangbuster sales opportunities for all the local fireworks stands. I guess people are just going nuts. And started last night, I don't know about you, but started last night here. And tonight is just going to be, it's a Saturday night in the United States, and it's 4th of July. Like, oh, good God. We've got some interesting times ahead.
What my city did, little Akron, Ohio, is it's going to suck, because normally Akron, Ohio, not known for their huge fireworks displays, especially after I went to Cleveland. I was like, oh, this is what fireworks displays are supposed to look like. But they're doing them synchronized in 4 different locations. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, wait a minute, that I'm pretty sure you didn't like quadruple the fireworks budgets to do this. And then you can listen on 97.5 and they have music and but I was like, but the whole point is, and then they're going to shoot off warning shots, one at 8:30, one at 9 o'clock, and then at 9:30 they kick off. So the idea is everybody's supposed to figure out where the fireworks are so that you can go see them without actually gathering. And I'm like, but I think in the long run, this is your typical Akron, Ohio fireworks display. Ooh,
done.
And then you're like, all right, well, is that it? Are we done? Are we over? All right. And then it's like, ooh, it's like literally like every minute, and a minute is a long time. But you know what would make that time go much quicker? That's right.
The coffee pour.
That's right.
The morning pour. Mark, thanks.
Yes.
Dave, tell everybody what Mark's won.
Yeah, Mark has re-upped for July. This is something we're like, hey, let's throw this on the wall and see if it sticks. And we're talking about Mark from podcastbranding.co, where you can get affordable, professionally designed podcast websites and artwork to help your show stand out. So whether you need cover art, logos, website, social media, ebooks, lead magnets, anything else, he's an award-winning graphic and web designer with over 30 years in the design field. He's also a podcaster. He's been podcasting since 2013. He's branded over 100 podcasts, and he's eager to work with you. Check him out, podcastbranding.co, and let him know that Dave and Jim from Ask the Podcast Coach sent you. And speaking of sending people places, we should send you over today. If you're watching this live, and right now 22 of you are, go over to podcastawards.com. I understand that we are now in the technology category. If you want to vote for Ask the Podcast Coach, we were like, hey, let's try this and see if we can win an award. So
yeah, it'd be fun. We've been doing it a while. Got some great fans, some great listeners.
Yeah. If you're listening live and you want to jump on in, first of all, if you're listening on Facebook, because I did throw it out at Facebook today, you need to go to askthepodcastcoach.com/live for us to actually see any questions that you have over there. And you're here with a few people. If you want to jump into the actual video with me and Jim, if you want to ask a question live and not just via chat, just go to askthepodcastcoach.com/join. And we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have, which reminds me, because I rebooted my computer right before we started, because that's always a good idea when you're doing live, and I didn't restart my Trello. So got to have that ready going. So you never know. Jim, we were talking a little bit this morning before we started about potential feedback. Should we wait for Ed to do that if he shows up?
Yeah, Ed, if you're out there, I saw him out there earlier this morning.
Okay.
Ed Sullivan, jump in here, askpodcastcoach.com/join. So Dave watch for him to come in. Yeah. Interesting when you survey your audience, which I think is really important to do at least once a year, get some kind of ideas on what are they thinking? What do you want? What do they want from you? Why do they listen? I think the questions you ask are really, really important. And I know you're saying, duh, like, yeah, duh. Of course they're important. No. They're more important than you think. And the way you word them really is important. We know this at Gallup in the way, and I'm not a survey research specialist. I don't do that kind of stuff. But I do know that we spend a lot of time using science to help fashion our questions. Do they matter the way you ask them? Because you just can't ask any question and expect to get an answer that's helpful. You really kind of need to think through the question. I think, Dave, for most podcasters, they need to ask the question, what would I actually do with this information when I have it? Like, so, questions like, how often do you listen? Okay. So you would think that's a great question, but when you get that information back, so depending on how you fashion it, you might say once a month, twice a year, once a year, whatever it happens to be. I think you have to ask yourself the question, when I get this data back, what am I going to actually do with it? That would make sense. It wouldn't make sense to do once a month, twice a year, less than once a year, because there's not much you could do with that. But you could ask some questions around the platform as an example. So like, what platform are you currently using? Dave, you could say to me, well, that you could get that information in other places, right? You could get it from iTunes, you could get it from Spreaker, you could get it from your ISP or from your host provider. But is there an advantage to asking your audience, your most engaged, by the way, these folks who answer the survey, they are the most engaged people that are there. You might want to think through like the answers from them. So Ed is joining us. Ed, you can throw Ed in here.
Yeah.
Hey, Ed, welcome.
Hey,
The man
throw me
from
right
Sonic
in.
Cupcake. You gotta love it.
That's the one. I think I got some branding on today.
Nice. nicely done. Ed, you over at Cigar Authority, and we're not going to make this about cigars, but I kind of really want to make this about the survey process. You guys sent a 20-question survey out to your audience that came back, and I think talked about it on the show as well. Is that right?
We did. And we do an annual survey.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone a couple of different directions. I'd say our listeners are not big readers, so essay questions are out. So we've sort of zeroed in on multiple choice, and we went with about 20 questions, but the types of things we were trying to do, I mean, as you probably both know, the show is really to originally support a business, a retail business. Doesn't matter what the business is, but we want to learn more about our audience in order to meet their needs from the retail side. But also, just as important is we want to be able to share information with the advertisers, so they know exactly who our audience is.
Now, Cigar Authority is a advertising heavy podcast. It's a podcast that I'm amazed at the number of ads. Like, I think some podcasters would be glad to have one ad, and Dave stacks them in kind of three segments throughout the show. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, as well as segments in the show.
Yeah.
So I haven't counted them all up lately. I don't have enough fingers and toes to count them all. So it exceeds 20.
Wow.
Yeah. And every one of the advertisers, some of them, the show's been running a little over 10 years. And some of them have been in for as long as 8 years. And so they're seeing value in it for sure. And I think, when you look at it from an advertising standpoint, we have an audience that's big enough to go CPM model if we wanted to. It's not a huge audience, but The problem with the CPM model is our audience doesn't care about mattresses, stamps. I don't think they're big letter writers either. So
or Audible listeners, maybe.
no, I
right.
think, what you find is there's no reason to commoditize our audience. Our audience has inherent value to the right advertiser. So, my guess would be we're getting, I don't know, at least 3 to 4 times what a good CPM would be with a generic audience. So it really can make a difference.
But because it's selling, because the podcast is not the product in a lot of ways, right? There's a retail product that's available. And by the way, that retail product is available in shops, but there's also an online business. And you can say, you can't say, but the difference between the local retail and the online sales.
Let's see. The local would be about 10 times as much as we're doing online, I would guess.
Okay. Boy, you'd kind of think that'd be flipped, but the local engagements, super important. Do you know how many in your survey, percentage wise of your listeners to respondents on the survey?
We've got, I would call a super engaged audience. So it's over 10% of our normal listening base replied and took the time to answer 20 questions.
Yeah. 10%. Dave, what do we say? What's the typical response rate on a survey?
Oh, 3-5% if you're doing great. But Dave's another great example of you end up creating products that you never would have thought of, except your audience came up with the idea. And one of my favorite ones was, they start off and they light up their cigar, and this week we're smoking a blah, blah, blah. And one of his audience members went, hey, can you let me know what you're going to smoke next week? Because I'll go order it. And so he went to the manufacturers and said, hey, can I get a bunch of your cigars at a discounted rate? I'm going to make a pack. So here's the August cigar back, because this audience wanted to experience that with him. And, so it's a win-win. He makes obviously probably a little bit of money off of the cigars. The cigar makers get their product into the hands of people that smoke cigars, and the audience wins because now that it's a better experience. And I was like, that's just a great example of
it's a win-win-win.
Yeah.
Everybody wins there because the audience too is getting the cigars for a better price than what the retail cost of them would be. So, the big thing, I think the most interesting thing in the whole survey, we asked whether the podcast influences their purchase decisions. And what do you think, Dave? You want to give a guess to the percentage? Yes.
Oh, that's a good question. What percentage? It's up there. What do you think, Jim?
Well, I have the survey in front of me. So what do you just guess, Dave? What do you think?
Because I want to say 100%, but it can't be 100%. That influences.
You didn't know there'd be a quiz today, huh?
Yeah, I would go 80 or above, but that's is what I'm thinking.
91.8%.
Yeah,
and so again, that's something we can share with advertisers. That makes our audience super valuable to them.
See, that's a great question. That's the question you want on a survey, because it's you're getting to know more about your audience. But man, how powerful is that to go 91% of our audience is influenced by what we do on the show?
Yeah, and the questions were, sort of back and forth between things that would be helpful to communicate to our advertisers. Some of them were just our own curiosity, and some of them were more, what T-shirt size do you wear? And that's
nice.
Well, that's more, if we're going to do an event or something, or we actually want to get some inventory, we have a better idea.
That's a great idea.
See, that goes back to me saying, if you're going to ask a survey question, have the intended result. What am I going to do with this data when I get it? And if you don't intend to sell merch or sell T-shirts, don't ask your audience what t-shirt size they wear. Like
Right.
if you're not intending to do that,
Well, you're sort of
you know,
setting an expectation for them by asking the question.
yeah, right. No,
Well, that-
right on the yeah. Go
Well,
ahead,
then it might also be good because then if you get a bunch of people going, "Hey, are there t-shirts?" It's like, "Oh, well, maybe we should make some." Jim in the chat room says, when I used to sell ads for classic, he was on a classic music station. He said, "We don't count the people we reach the people who count." So yeah, that's a beautiful thing there, man. But those are some great questions. And it used to drive me nuts when I worked in customer service back in the days when I was a copier technician. I was also / customer service. And every now and then when people like the marketing team was bored, they'd go, "Let's do a survey." And the first thing I would say is, what are we doing with the content? Because there's nothing you can do worse to your audience than ask for their opinion and then do nothing with it. It's like,
Right.
so that's awesome.
And we have been talking. We've been not me. I think I've been with the show about 3 years, but Dave's been doing the show every Saturday at noontime for over 10 years.
Wow.
Without a miss, except on a day like today, that's a holiday where we pre-record it. So we wanted to find out, would our live viewers follow us to a different day and time? So we sort of asked, okay, what's the best day time to watch it live? And I think what you'll find is, and what I said to Dave is, you're going to hear both sides, right? Some people are going to say, well, if it's not Saturday, I'm out.
Right.
But, we do decent numbers on the live, probably on an ongoing basis for the stream, couple hundred,
That's great.
which really is not too bad at all, And,
well, you would though. So let's just say you guys change to Friday afternoons permanently. You're like, okay, we don't want to come in Saturdays anymore. We're going to pre-record this on Fridays. You'd have a bunch of people who carved out their Saturday morning. Dave, it'd be like if we change this. I mean, we have been 9:30 Central, 10:30 Eastern from the very beginning, and 5 years of it, right? So if we said, hey, we're doing Friday, same kind of deal, you would drop a bunch of people initially.
Yeah.
But then you'd pick up a whole new group who are like, oh, I could never make Saturday mornings because it just wasn't convenient. But Friday afternoons is great. The real question is, would that number rebound back to let's just say it was 100 live? Would it rebound back to the 100? Based on your numbers, weeknights are actually more popular than weekends and weekdays. Yeah. So, you might think, okay.
The one issue is that content-wise, our space has become very crowded with live streams, with COVID-19 going on. There's just all kinds of people. Okay, a virtual this, a virtual that. So in some ways, Saturday is a safer space for us to get audience. And the other factor for us is we have a live studio audience that can, in the wintertime, run as many as 30 people.
That's cool.
It's sort of a fun addition to the show. And so I think that's what's been really successful. We've got an interactive show, right? You can get the product and experience the product with us each week. And, the people who aren't listening live, a lot of them will listen to the podcast. We're, based on the numbers, I'd guess it's 80% podcast, 20% on, Facebook or YouTube, the split between them. But a lot of people just, carve out some time, sit down, listen to the podcast, and smoke along with us at home.
Is there anything you learned from your survey that you go, ooh, we might want to change something? Or is this just more, because you've been doing it 10 years, is this just more like, what, we're going in the right direction?
I think generally we're heading in the right direction. Our numbers still go up. It's amazing. The whole pandemic listening thing was interesting to watch. We went up very significantly on the video portion, probably doubled our numbers there. And those have come back down again. But even when we doubled the video numbers, we didn't lose much on the podcast side. So I think it was different people. It wasn't necessarily that folks are at home now, so they're watching it on video instead. But for us, one of the big questions was, hey, should we have an audience event? And so we asked them, if we had a weekend event in New Hampshire, would you consider attending? And to my surprise, 62% said yes, which probably means 10%, but that's still good.
Right.
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
could be a couple hundred, right?
yeah, consider it versus doing it are, very different things. But, I think the only other thing we were really interested in demographic wise is how much of our audience is female, right? Because given the subject matter of the podcast,
I'm going to guess 15%.
you're high on.
Am I high?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't mean you're
Right.
high on drugs. I mean your guess is
Not yet, but no, I just thought maybe it might be higher than you think. Cause it's one of those things where there's a thing now, like every movie, like in the past, if you got a bunch of women together, for some reason they would break into a pillow fight. And now every TV show or movie, you get a bunch of women together, it's wine. It's always wine. And on occasion, they'll break into the hubby's stash and let's smoke a cigar. And I was like, maybe this is higher than we thought, but apparently not.
Apparently not. And interesting.
What is the number? I'm dying to know.
5%.
Okay, that's still higher than.
Yeah. And interestingly, even amongst cigar smokers, we're pretty niche. Most of the people who smoke cigars are not tuned into live broadcasts. They're not listening to they got their one kind, and that's what they do, and they're not interested in the rest of it. So this is, almost a niche within a niche. It's a very specific audience.
Well, when I talked to Dave, when I was in, Ed's area there, up there to speak at an event. So I got to hang out with Ed one night, and Dave was there. So he took me over to the studio, and it's one of the things you kind of go, oh yeah, is you can't advertise alcohol in cigarettes and all the other places you can advertise. So it was like, oh yeah, that's true. So he's got his audience that has found him, and he's got a channel there that's direct to his, potential customers, which is great.
I mean, one of the only places left besides us would be some of the magazines,
right?
Like a Cigar Aficionado. So we were curious too, and asked our listeners, do you read any cigar magazines? And where did I put that one?
Jim, what do you think? You have the numbers. That's I keep asking.
Jim has it. He may find it quicker than I do.
Let me look here really quick. I saw that question. There's the T-shirt. Maybe you didn't put it in the results you sent to me.
No, I found it. Maybe I censored your results.
Could be. What do you have?
All right. So it wasn't that surprising. 53% of people said yes to that.
That's about right. That's what I would have guessed. Because you think about these are people that are into cigars,
Exactly.
And it's like, okay, I love the podcast, but I want more. And it's like,
Well, and that's the funny thing too, right? You get so much different feedback from people, and we don't want to ask what they think about the length of the podcast, honestly, because it's going to stay the way it is. And to your point, don't ask if you're not going to do anything with the information. But it shocks me the number of people who say our podcast is too short.
That's amazing. Yeah.
2 hours. And we also, because we ran out of advertising space, an advertiser came to us and said, would you consider doing an after show that I could sponsor? So we've got a 20-minute after show on top of it.
Wow. Craig wants to know, have you ever thought of cross promotion with that guy who podcasts about single malt whiskeys? I don't know. It sounds like you got enough promotion going on, but that's what goes good with a cigar. I don't know, but that might be a cross promotion off. And I like that idea.
It is. It sort of takes it to even a smaller niche segment. But no, I think Dave's got all he can handle right now.
Yeah.
And the audience, I think Dave mentioned it to you when you were up there. It's 1 out of 1,000 people smoke premium cigars, right? And most of the consumption happens in the USA. So that's a fairly small audience, right? So where are we at? Like 350 million or something? So where does 1 in 1,000 take you down to? Less than 3 million.
Yeah.
Is that, 350,000, or call it 500,000?
Yeah.
Almost 250,000 in that.
Right. So I just rounded up for the rest of the world.
Right.
And, that's, as they say in the business world, your TAM, the total addressable market for this. So if you're getting, and we don't quote numbers, but 5 to 10,000 of the people in that, you got a big chunk of the market.
See, and I don't think most people do that. I think so many people just think my audience should be bigger, which we all think that, but there does come a time when you might actually end up a little more encouraged when you go, okay, I'm doing the albino ferret podcast, and you're like, okay, how many albino ferrets are there in the world? Okay, there's 100 the left on the world, and I'm doing a podcast about it, and I've got 40 downloads per episode. I've got 40% of the market. It's like, holy cow. And
this is just it, right? We don't obsess about the numbers with this podcast.
No.
And I would guess, well, I know Dave makes let's say it's well into the 6 figures per year on this podcast. So where does that put him? In the top 98% probably of people monitor, maybe 99. And it's a relatively small audience. It's sub 10,000 people.
Man.
So I think that is the thing for people to think about. Everybody chases, well, I need this number because I need CPM money. Well, if Dave was taking standard CPM, he'd be making a whole lot less money.
And I think a little less motivated, to be honest. Like, I think that direct connection with the folks that are doing the advertising, and that advertising being so consistent in the product really makes, like, it really hits the target. One of the interesting numbers that came out of the survey was the percentage of individuals who are on the care package, which is kind of the premium. If you think about how the audience can get involved from a premium perspective, they can $25 or $30 a month. So you could ask for that in Patreon, but instead there's a product associated with it that people can get. They mail them once a month. Got a great deal on that too. I ordered some additional product and just said, hey, include it with the care package. It came free, right? So it was a great service to me. Only half of the listeners, Ed, are care package, and only half of those are on the premium side. And so,
it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that tells me something, that half that audience is engaged without having that purchase commitment in there. It's not like you'd kind of expect it, like, oh, everybody would be on the care package, even at $30, which isn't, you're getting something for that $30. Yep. So it's an easy deal, especially for this niche audience. So from Dave's standpoint, I would say, man, we still have some opportunities in there to continue to grow that premium subscription. I think some of the question would be, how do you get your care package? There's two names. There's two names, right? There's a $25 and a $30. Do you guys name those differently?
The $30 is your care package Prime.
There we go. So premium and Prime, let's say, right? Which means you get one more cigar in the deal. But has there been much discussion about how do you get your premium to Prime?
Well, Jim, you're a member of the Prime, correct?
I am.
Maybe you noticed in your package this month, there was a special thing for members of Prime only, where we're doing we're doing a cigar bingo contest on the show. So we've got a whole bunch of little catchphrases that come up on the show. You know, instead of being a drinking game, you follow along at home, and you know, when somebody says one of the catchphrases, you mark that off on your bingo card.
Nice.
Whoever gets bingo first wins a box of cigars. So it helps with the engagement.
Right,
It's giving additional value on the Prime side, you know, kind of like what Amazon did with, first you get free shipping, and now you get, you know, a certain number of Kindle downloads, and now you get this. So we definitely saw the survey and looked at, okay, how are we going to get more people over to Prime?
Yeah. No, that's cool.
That's it.
Ed, thanks for anything else? I was going to say thanks for jumping in, but anything else?
No, nothing else from my end. I'm just usually getting ready for the show at this
I know.
point. So,
it's-
given that we pre-recorded for once, then
Right.
I
How,
thought
how'd
it'd
that
be.
go? How'd the pre-recording go?
It always goes smoothly, Jim. I'm at the helm. You know that. We just decided, and we didn't have a particular idea of the why of it. We just decided, okay, well, since this is a little different, let's only stream live on Facebook, and we'll actually do it as a premiere on YouTube at the normal time, and the podcast at the normal time. So, you know, I think it'll be interesting to see, is that going to be a big bump to our Facebook numbers because people consumed it when it was available, or is everyone going to wait?
I hope that was your idea, because that's a great idea, by the way. So the premiere will allow folks to all join at the same time, so they'll still have that audience effect same time as they would normally get there. Are you going to have somebody man kind of the chat room so that there's some-
Barry said on the show, you know, before the show before that, we, you know, some of this stuff we just talk about on the show. I don't know. What do you think we should do? Okay, well, let's do it this way. And so Barry will be there, and I'll hop in for an hour or so. And, you know, it does give us a much better chance to interact than we normally have when we're running the show.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. We'll have to track that to see how that premiere goes, because I don't think that's a feature that a lot of podcasters have used yet, to kind of realize like, hey, we can set this. YouTube is giving it kind of preference. It shows up, anybody who subscribed, it shows up in their feed. I mean, there's a lot of great things about using that. And so it'll be interesting to follow, because it starts at a certain time. You can get your audience there. Even if you're not live, you can get your audience there all at the same time. So
yeah, and people
pretty
get
great.
notified. They can set a reminder for themselves. So we'll see how that works for us.
Ed, thanks for jumping in and sharing those survey results for us.
Thank you, guys. Enjoy
Appreciate
your fourth after
You bet.
you're done working here.
and enjoy your Saturday off. That's kind of nice.
I
Probably
know.
the first time in a while you've had a Saturday off. So I
All
appreciate
right.
it.
Thanks,
There you
guys.
go.
Thanks, Don.
Thanks,
Don.
Thank you, man. Well, speaking of premium, we want to say thanks to and of course our mid-show pour,
There we go. Got to get that.
courtesy of podcastbranding.co. But we always want to thank our $20 supporters. Awesome people like, well, first of all, I always forget this. The Teacher's Pet still open, which I find it's starting to be a little soul crushing. I think, you know what I need to do? I need to promote this on the School of Podcasting. That's what I need to do. But anyway, if you want one-on-one consulting at a much discounted rate, I mean, normally it's $200 an hour, and I want to say it's $125.
Okay.
So for an hour, and I'll listen to your show, and it's kind of almost like a private version of the podcast review show, or if you just got questions and such. But we also want to thank our $20 supporters like Greg over at debtshepherd.com, Glenn the Geek Hebert at horseradionetwork.com, who will be coming on the School of Podcasting. I always love when Glenn contacts me. He's like, hey, I've got an idea for this thing. And it's almost always like, yeah, if you think he knows my audience. So when he has an idea, it's always good. Max Trescott over at aviationnewstalk.com, Shane at spybrary.com. We might be talking about Shane in a minute here. There's speaking of a mystery and sleuthing and things of that nature, we might get into that in the post show. There's a controversy about a company that makes artwork that we have to make sure to talk about in a way that can't get us sued. But I'll stop right there. The nice thing about podcastbranding.co is, Mark is creating the artwork that you hire him for, not some other company or person that is potentially, allegedly, maybe stealing other people's artworks. Carl is not stealing anything. He's telling you about life in the Carolinas. You can find him at lifeinthecarolinaspodcast.com. Kim Craggy, which I'm going to be talking about her in just a second here. You'll hear the lovely voice of Kim in just a second. If you want to hear more of her voice, go over to Toastmasters101.net. And Ed, you just saw him. You love him. You can't get enough of him. Go over to soniccupcake.com. And if you'd like to be an awesome supporter, you can help us out here. AskThePodcastCoach.com/awesome. And of course, if you also want to support Dave, the book is available. It's coming out now in August, not in July. Go to schoolofpodcasting.com/profit book to get your copy of Profit from Your Podcast, Proven Strategies to Turn Listeners into Livelihood. And I believe Dave is mentioned in that book. That's one of those things where I'm like going, did I get Dave into the book or not? Because the book was written 9 months ago. And I'm kind of like, But I want to stay on the subject of feedback. And I always say to people that you need somebody not named Mom to listen to your show. So I'm starting this show. You've seen the artwork. Mark did it for Grow Your Community. And originally, I kind of came up and I was going to do something a little different, a little more, not NPR, but a little less energy. And so originally the intro was going to kind of sound like this, where I could say something like, hey, on this week's show, we're interviewing Dan Miller from 48 Days to the Work You Love. He's written a book on Mastermind. He has courses and blah, blah, blah. And then the idea was it would kind of pick up.
Welcome to the Grow Your Community Show.
So that was the idea. And I actually did then a trailer based on that music. We're not going to listen.
You're thinking of launching your own online community. It really gave me, okay, these people are really cool. So if I can facilitate the party, this could be special.
Now, notice how he said, it really gets me, I think is what he said. And then he started the rest of that sentence. So I played this for Kim Craggy from Toastmasters101.net. And I asked her because I value Kim's opinion. I know Kim will tell me if this is good or not. And so she said,
that's a trailer.
That's a trailer.
Okay. For a minute, maybe you have an error at the beginning. Start it again.
You're thinking of launching your own online community. It really gave me, okay, these people are really cool.
It really gave me.
Facilitate the party.
Okay,
this could be
who's
special.
speaking there?
But anyway, and she said, that really she goes, I started going left and then the guy changes. And it's funny because when I still hear that, I don't there are a lot of times my brain just, because I know what came before the clip and after the clip, that it just didn't hit me. So this is why getting somebody to give you feedback, because in the end, that the trailer I made is now this.
You're thinking of launching your own online community. These people are really cool. So if I can facilitate the party, this could be special.
And I got
there's got to be more to it.
Well, listen, I'm going to let this play for a second because
it's like anything. If you want to learn how to ride a unicycle, you go watch a YouTube of somebody who already knows how to do it. And maybe you reach out and say, hey, how did you do that?
Which is exactly what I did. That was a mistake. What you just heard, the music stopped. And I was like, hey, that's kind of cool that it then accents what he says, which is, how did you do that? And so if I were to let that play, it goes, I did that same mistake now on purpose to where I say blah, blah, blah. And we want to find out what's working. And there's a clip. And then I go, and sometimes, and then the music stops, what's not working. And then you hear Dan Miller go, we lost 30% of my audience. And then when the next thing comes in, the music kicks in. So that's just an old musician trick. Anytime you all of a sudden stop the music, if people are dancing, they're like, wait, where's the downbeat? And then you kick it back in and it's like, so my thought that and you'll see, if you're a subscriber to my YouTube channel, you're going to hear this all again. I put it into a video just because I thought this is an example of feedback isn't like she also said about the music. She said,
okay, I'm not in love with that music at all.
Okay.
That's my mom type music.
It's a whole different Dave Jackson feel to it. Yeah.
I would like something less churchy sounding.
So, and I was like, Okay, and it just, and the thing I loved about it, that is the voiceover person I used. Again, reach out to your network. That is Kim Newlove, who does the pharmacist with an S, the pharmacist voice. And she's doing voiceover for people that need people who understand how to say very hard medical stuff. And I was like, hey, this one's easy. I just need you to read this sentence and I will pay you. So she was, and I loved it because she has that kind of, without sounding, I don't know, like corporate voice, but also I could see this going very corporate. Or if I put high energy in it, she's got that kind of bubbly, you can hear the smile in her voice kind of thing. So don't be afraid to ask for feedback. So many people are like, yeah, but people are gonna like, tell me if I need to change it. And I'm like, well, yeah, which one did you want to listen to? Or, and I was like, instantly, I was like, well, that's better.
Yeah.
So
where'd you find that music?
Audio Blocks. I signed up for Audio Blocks 2 years ago on Good Friday for like $99 for the year. And it's not a whole lot more per year, but it's one of those things where every this year, Black Friday, I'm like, hey, what is this $150 charge for? I'm like, oh, it's Audio Blocks. I'm like, so it's a yearly thing, but I use a lot. I get bored playing the same music all the time.
Yeah. And
so I use a lot of music as transition in my different shows and stuff. And so I like that a lot. And my whole thing is I always like funky music. To me, it's good.
It's good. It fits you. Like
Yeah.
you went from, I mean, the change in tone from the first to the second. By the way, thank goodness you listened to Kim.
Yeah.
Like, because she was right. It's like, she was really kind to you on the music, by the way. She's like, oh, not in love with the music. She'd have been like, where did you find that?
Well, and the only reason I like that was because it started off really slow and then it built up. And I was like, oh, I can do like the intro with the guest over that. And it's like, so
I like the second bit. Yeah. It sounded cool. It's got some funk to it. And
yeah.
I told you in pre-show, I want to be the guitar player on that kind of thing. I want to go back to the 70s and just be that kind of guitar player,
Yeah. And I realized if I wanted to, I could sit there and tweak that and tweak that and tweak that. But at my point, I just wanted to,
I was like, something there. That's a really good trailer with that music. And then with what you were saying, are you going to change what that guy said so that it's,
I did. If you actually hear, I wish I had just that clip, but if we, I'm going to go ahead and play this again here, but
You're thinking of launching your own online community. It really gave me, okay, these people are really.
It really gave me, okay, these people. So in the new version,
You're thinking of launching your own online community. These people are really cool. So if I can facilitate the party, this could be.
So notice I cut out. I went right to it. And I didn't even notice that. And that's when I went, ooh, this is a great example how feedback, you don't know what you don't know because you're up to your neck in it.
In your first example, so you don't change the tone of what you said either time. Right.
All I did was took out the music and put in some new stuff.
When you play it the first time with the slow music, it sounds to me like you're almost struggling to say the words. So you're thinking almost like Captain Kirk, like, so you're thinking about starting an online show, right?
And then thinking of starting a community. Yeah.
But when you add the upbeat music to it, it takes away that whole feeling, and it doesn't have that same tone. So there's a great example how a music bed can kind of change. You didn't change the physical recording. No. The music bed changed it for you, though.
Yeah. One more time, just for fun.
Yeah.
You're thinking of launching your own online community,
and then.
You're thinking of launching your own online community.
It's the exact same voice, but it is amazing how that works.
It totally changes the tone of it.
And I still get to do the cool thing that I wanted to do because now I picture it this, like you hit play on the show and you hear on today's show, Dan Miller. And then you wouldn't have that again.
Welcome to the Grow Your Community Show.
So the little thing I want to do, blah, blah, blah. So,
yeah. I like it.
So that was just, so for wondering why we're talking about feedback today, that's why. Jim, are you an official member of the Podcast Academy yet?
No, I haven't. I haven't got it done. I was going to do it last week, and then I got super busy. And this weekend, I'm getting super busy with the 4th of July. But what's the deadline for the $50? And I understand that they've relaxed the.
Yeah, you don't have to do the letter of recommendation thing. If you want to say me, use the email schoolofpodcasting@gmail.com.
Okay.
From what Rob Greenlee said, I heard him on the feed, and he said, I might get an email that says, Jim Collison says he's a podcaster, and I will go, yes, he is.
Okay.
So I guess if you want to reference me, you can, or like I just referenced Rob. I'm like, ask Rob. And, I got approved in like a day or two. So that was cool. But from what I understand, they're working on some sort of online networking thing in August, and they're working on an award show. But at this point, I am just popping popcorn and going to sit back and watch. And if they ask for my opinion, I'll give it. But I kind of, I'm not like, oh, yay. I'm like, okay, well, we did this. I'll be interested to see what we do with it. But it'll
take some time. It'll take some time. Like any good group that I trust Rob. He's going to do the right thing on this. So I don't think I'd hesitate on getting in there and getting it done. I'm only hesitating because I've had massive technology meltdowns over the last 2 weeks. So I've been busy trying to protect my own network. But
yeah, Dave says Podcast Academy. Okay, I came in late. Did I miss something? Yeah, the Podcast Academy is a thing that was kind of organized by I want to say Hernan, the guy from Wondery, and a bunch of people from Spotify and a lot of people with money. And then what was cool is Rob Greenlee ended up being the chair, and Rob is like the ultimate indie guy. But the deadline is September for the Podcast Academy. If you want to get in at $50 a year. And Ed said he already used Jim as a reference. So there you go. And so I haven't, I have no expectations at this point. I guess I'm not down on it. I'm not up. I'm like, I'm in a wait and see kind of thing. And they're just getting off the ground, and we'll see what happens. The other thing it's on my list of things to check out, Podcast Movement University. Has anybody jumped into that yet? I would love to hear some feedback, because here's the thing, that if you don't watch your attitude when somebody jumps in your space. So let's say, Ed is, working with Dave, who's the king of cigar podcasts, and all of a sudden somebody starts, Cigar World podcast. It would be really easy for Ed to go, oh crap, somebody's going to come in and try to take my listeners. And it's like, no, not really. Because those people are, they've got 10 years now with Dave and things like that. So when I see that, and I don't know what Podcast University is at this point. I'm assuming it's something to do with training people on podcasting and things like that. But, some people want to learn podcasting from me, and some people are going to want to learn podcasting from Jared and Dan because they know Jared and Dan. And that's, it is what it is.
Yeah, no, you got to go with who you're comfortable with. October 1st is that official deadline, by the way. For the membership fee. Goes up to $100 on October 1st, $75 for students. Even at $100, it's pretty good.
Yeah, that's really what I thought it was going to be. And then when they dropped it, because I think they dropped the price due to COVID, they're like, people might be kind of stressing for cash at the moment. So they dropped it down a bit. And then Fred says, I joined Podcast University for the third time. I'm not sure. I know there have been many people there. I mean, come on, you can, throw a rock and you'll hit 8 million different people teaching podcasting. So that's nothing new. The other thing that came out on the 2nd is I watched a video, is Zoom came out with the H8 with, now you have 6 microphones built in that you can plug XLR in, and then 2 kind of, the microphone that comes built into the Zoom thing. It's not the prettiest thing in the world, I will say that, but it looked pretty easy to use. Jim's got a picture of it here.
And I think it's ugly. I mean, it's super space age, or it's really ugly. Like,
yeah. And so the interesting thing I thought about it is the video from Zoom was all about musicians, which is a great tool for musicians. If you want individual tracks for most of the stuff, and then the 2 microphones to pick up the ambient noise of the room, it's great. And it's got all sorts of Bluetoothy stuff that you can adjust the volumes with another app and all sorts of stuff like that. $400. So I don't plan on getting one anytime soon. I've still got an H6 in the box. I've never unboxed it. And so for me, there's $400 for the, Zoom 8 or $600 for the Rodecaster. I guess it depends too on what you're doing. Although the Rodecaster now with the portable battery, kind of plug, it's not going to be as portable as that because that'll fit in, I don't know how big it is, but I'm assuming it'll fit in your hand ish. I would point more people towards the Rodecaster. It's going to be hard to beat the Rodecaster. I don't know. What do you think, Jim?
Yeah, that's an interesting design. Like, I'm not sure I would have done, they must have had good reasons. I'm not sure I would have done these corners like this, this, I get it. You can put a cable in here and have it go, 3 different ways, kind of keep the cabling. In a big square box may have looked ugly. I don't know, but I don't like that corner, this corner in here. I'm not a big fan of that look. But for $400, it's priced right, I think, for what it does and in that space. They, if this thing would have come out at $699, which I thought maybe it would, like that was kind of like, well, I don't know, but $399 seems to be the right price. I've said this before. These aren't my favorite devices. I'm just not a big. If I'm going to go portable, I'm going to take a little bit of better equipment with me. I shouldn't say better. This is pretty good, but I do not like tiny little dials and knobs. I want kind of full size stuff, even when I'm live.
Yeah, Bangs is saying, notice that they haven't released any hard specs on it yet. I did not notice that. That's interesting.
Well, it'll come with some firmware updates, I'm sure.
Well,
it's going to.
If you think about this, though, if we go back to the early days of podcasting where we're all buying mixers and portable recorders, this is a mixer and a portable recorder all in one. So that's kind of cool. And I do like the fact that you can adjust the volume with knobs. In the video I saw, you actually, that little thing at the bottom turns into like UV meters, which is kind of cool. So I wouldn't say it's a bad piece of equipment by any means. It's actually pretty cool. It's definitely. The other thing, I guess, for me, how often do I need to record 6 people at the same time versus 4 on the H6?
I'm sure there's a use case. And for a lot of people, they're going to use 2. And that's okay. Yeah. I mean, at least you can expand out to it. I'm not a fan of I have big fat fingers, so I'm not a fan of little tiny knobs to do changes. And then I hope this isn't one of those things where you try to jam like that screen down below. You try to jam too much. It's like the early days of the iPod when they try to jam a whole bunch of things into a really bad interface. Yeah. And you're like, oh, I don't know. There's already 2 screens on that where you'd swipe left and right. And it's kind of like, oh, that's a lot. So hey, if you bought it, you like it, awesome. Roll with
it. Here with another opinion is the one and only Chris Nesi. How are you, buddy?
What's up, gentlemen? Happy Saturday morning to you.
How are you?
Doing good. A little bit of a different setup. I'm in the garage. I actually got you guys on the TV behind me.
Nice. Excellent.
I just wanted to call in because quick, I don't know if you saw in that image. I know you just mentioned that the Zoom announcement focused on musicians.
Yeah.
But I noticed in some of the artwork you've been just showing on screen, that there looks like there's a podcast icon. So maybe there is some podcast functionality to it.
There was down in the bottom screen. I remember there was something. Yeah, there is that little podcast icon. So there's something there. So it could be interesting. I know they've always had the ability to plug a line in. So if you had, like on my iPhone, I've got the whatever this plug is, if I got a line out of this and then a cable, I could go that route and plug my phone in. Now it's not going to be as cool as far as I know, to where, I can plug the phone in to get the output of it, but there's no way that I know of, I think, to get the input of it. I'd have to look into that. There's probably some adapter cable thing, whatever. You got new glasses, my friend. Did you not?
No, they're just glaring.
Maybe I've just not seen you with glasses, but it's
it might be the hair. The last time you saw me, I had hair, probably.
That might be it. I don't know. So anyway, but it's a new toy for people to play with, so that's kind of fun.
You gonna get one, Chris?
No, I got the H6, and that more than meets my needs. I use it as the audio interface, and I take it when I go mobile.
Nice. He said, Bangs in the chat room. They have a noise gate now, which is cool, and buttons for live effects and sounds. So if you need to, you can now do that on a, well, okay. So we're getting, aside from the phone plug-in, which I just watched the video on YouTube. I went over to their Facebook group because I remember Chris had said, hey, anybody know what this is? And I saw it was coming out on the 2nd. So on the 2nd, I ran over to see what it was, and we'll see what happens. So
I was all excited to see what it was, and then I forgot to look on the 2nd to see what it was. So there you go. All right,
nice.
That's all I had. I just wanted to point out that there was that button, and maybe there is some built-in podcast functionality to it. So
Bet there is. Thanks for jumping in, Chris.
Thanks, man.
Right, happy 4th of July, guys.
You too. Be safe.
We'll
Fingers and toes intact, my friend.
Nice. Yeah, and that's the other thing. It probably means you're going to be able to get a Zoom H6. I know they're already on sale for $250. I think I saw where they were coming down trying to make room for that. So
the H6 is $250.
I want to say, I thought I saw where they'd come down. I know they're on sale. So, and then Scott says, yeah, I'm in the Fat Finger Club. That's the thing I hate, is when you start making things so small, you're like, that's not going to work.
It'd be great if it had a driver that would have a interface, so you could plug a monitor in or whatever, just to get those little dials have how do you get your finger in there to move those? Then I hit the one next to it.
Use your thumb, maybe. I don't know. It has 4 pads, so we're getting there. If you don't need the phone thing,
it would be great if those were infinite, and then you had in the screen down below, you could choose. Maybe you could go in, choose the settings, and use a slider, a virtual slider, or something like that to get a little more fine-tuned, plus or minus, something like that.
Yeah, H6 Bang says is $250. So
yeah, I'm on Sweetwater,
which is a great deal, man.
So I guess $350 would be the original price. They haven't dropped that on Sweetwater, but maybe it's $250 in other places.
Yeah, I think it was Amazon had dropped it, probably making room for inventory. We'll see. So, but interesting, again, to see. I'll be interested to see because at this point the Rode, Daniel says, yeah, it's back up to $299.
Set a Slick Deals alert for it. So go to slickdeals.com.
Yeah.
Just go in there, search for it one time, and then set the alert. And I would set an alert for all of the Zoom H series if you're looking to buy one, and then wait for the right deal to come in. I am sure it's going to be pretty throughout the summer. There's going to be some deals all over the place, and that Slick Deals community is a great way to kind of keep track of things.
I'm trying to figure out what this means. Michael says my beard makes me look
stately. I think is what
stately. Okay,
stately. I think it makes you look Amish, but
I was going for sexy Santa. If I do this, I kind of but it is getting to the point now when I ride my bike, it's starting to get sweaty, and I'm like, okay, maybe this whole beard thing is like, let's go back to the.
When you do shave it off, shave the mustache first, and just keep the bottom beard for a day. Just
to go full on Amish.
Go full Amish.
Nice. We have Bangs on decks in the chat room, but I realized that as we do this, it's time to wrap up the first part of the show. So, Jim, what's coming up on the AverageGuy.tv?
Yeah, I actually had a show scheduled and then kind of canceled it at the last minute. Had some family stuff come up, and so you can do that. Like I told the host, I was like, sorry, can't be there. So no show this week, but if you want to go back to the summer lawn care show, it's still available out there at the AverageGuy.tv.
Yeah. On the School of Podcasting, I might do exactly what we did on the show. So I apologize in advance for the repeat because it is a holiday and I like the feedback segment. I was like, you know what? That actually worked pretty good. So I might take kind of what we learned, which is often happens on the show. I take what I learned on Saturday morning, polish it a little more, and then put it out on Monday. So
I don't think that's bad. I don't think that's a bad thing.
So, but at any rate, we always thank everyone for coming out. Thanks to the awesome patrons. Again, go to askthepodcastcoach.com/awesome. If you're listening to this later and you go, oh, I can never make it at 10:30. Just go to askthepodcastcoach.com/ask, and you can listen, or you can leave a question there, and we will play it on the show. And I've got another 54 seconds to kill. So,
wow, I thought I talked too long. And
yeah, thanks to Mark over at podcastbranding.co. And
we may even do a mid-show sponsorship spot, right? So somebody could do the mid-show. Yeah,
we're pondering that idea. I need to go find my plugin for auctions, and
nice.
We might do that again. So, yeah. So everybody in the U.S., enjoy your holiday. Everybody else, enjoy your Saturday, and stick around for some post show where I'm dying to hear what Bangs is going to. I have questions for Bangs too, because he's Captain Reddit, and I played a lot with Reddit today. So stick around. Ed says we could add about 20 more sponsors.
Dave over at Cigar Authority does it, so it's a model. It doesn't work for everybody. I'm not sure that would work for you, Dave, to be honest. But
yeah,
that the mid-show pour would be a spot like right before we do the sponsors. We gotten kind of good at that. So yeah, no, for sure.
Awesome. Well, joining us, the one and only, the king of Reddit, Mr. Bangs Naughty Bits. How are you, buddy?
Pretty darn good. How is your 4th of July going?
So far, so good. I have all my fingers and my toes. So
excellent. So you're prepared to lose them tonight. I hope Jim's ready to go out with the illegal fireworks, since we're not allowed to have real ones.
Oh, well, no, Nebraska, we can have real ones. So
excellent.
Yeah.
We have my brother has a crazy neighbor that kind of almost sets the neighborhood on fire every year, and we all like, wow, that's really dangerous. But man, is that cool? And so I might head over there tonight because he also has a pool, and as we speak, it's 85 degrees here, so that the pool sounds perfect. So, what can we help you with, buddy?
A couple of things regarding the H6H8. Notice they haven't actually released the specs on it, which I find fascinating. The H6 has just good enough preamps for the modern day that if you plug in a big dynamic mic, it'll suck. But you can get by with, say, one of the XM 8500 or Beta 58As or low or high sensitivity dynamic mics. And you don't get a lot of background hiss with those, but the more gain hungry mics have a lot of hiss. It's right on that cutting edge of being good, not good. 6 years ago, it was fabulous.
Right.
And the question is whether the H8 has any better preamps. They're not answering that question.
We'll have to see. So at some point they'll have to release that, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure Julian Krause or Curtis Judd or some of the other testers out there will get a hold of one and give us real numbers from direct measurements.
Yeah, because I've only seen one video, and the guy was just kind of going over the features. He didn't really say if he liked it or not. I was like, here's what it does. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And I got about halfway through the video and was kind of like, okay, so it's an H6 with 2 extra inputs and a screen at the bottom, and was kind of like, I need to go back to it. And I just haven't done that. Brandon is saying he thought he read someplace that it has a TRRS so you can plug the phone in, bi-directional mic and speakers. That would be cool.
The XY capsules usually have a 3.5 millimeter bypass for audio in.
Yeah.
But, it's not a TRRS to connect the phone to. So you need some sort of adapter to get audio back to the phone or other device.
Yeah, and now you're in the joy of trying to make a mix minus into the H8, because you could take the headphone out.
You can manage it on the H6. There are ways to get a mix minus out of the H6.
Yeah,
with wiring it just so, but you're panning things in the virtual mixer and doing exciting things that are just unfun.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas the L8, the slightly larger, made for this sort of thing device, which also has relatively crummy preamps, even though it came out last year, is designed to do exactly that for the same price.
Yeah, that's true. If you think about it, those two are the same price.
And the H6 has an EIN, the self noise, in the preamps of 190 or negative 120 dBu approximately. The L8 has negative 121 dBu, so allegedly 1 dBu better.
Okay.
But you really want to get something in the 127 to 129 range, because at that point you can't hear a hiss with basically any mic you're going to plug in unless you really crank the gain up. You're likely to get the ambient noise before you get the hiss from the device.
There you
So
go.
you don't need a cloud lifter or anything like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, because it's time to bring in, like you said, the cloud lifter or the FET or something like that.
Bangs, what do you think of that? The design, just the cover, the case.
I posted that a few minutes after Zoom posted their YouTube video, and I posted a comment on my thread. That is ugly. And then left it at that.
Yeah, it's not the prettiest thing in the world.
Yeah, when you use the AB mic capsule, it looks like an insect.
That's what Kyle says. It looks like a scary spider. Yeah,
it was intentional. I mean, maybe that's what they wanted to go for, something like that, something that would look so different, because it'll get us talking about it. I mean, it may be a marketing thing just to get people talking about it.
It will be an acceptable recorder for Halloween. I don't see beyond that.
Well, and not that you show a recorder like that, not that it becomes part of your set, right? I mean, in most cases, it's going to be behind the scenes. Nobody's going to see it. It doesn't matter that much, but you know, how genius would it be if they made it that way on purpose, just to get people talking about it so that it got more advertising, free average. I mean, we've already spent 5 minutes on it. So,
Dan says he thought it looked like a bomb in a movie. So have fun getting that through TSA. It'll be.
I once saw a slightly in the future television program, and all the reporters ran up to the politician to get a quote, and somebody held out a Zoom H6 up to the politician in the slightly in the future event, because it looked kind of sort of futuristic, I think.
Yeah, with the microphones crossed,
and the screen was full brightness and blazing, and I assume he just happen to have it in his backpack.
Well, it's be a good way to do it. Be a good way.
Well, speaking of equipment, I'm going to share a quick picture on the screen here, and that is America's Dad, Tom Hanks, using a Blue Yeti completely wrong. And I was like, I want to start my own business, like BlueYetiTraining.com or something like that.
It will work this way, Dave. It will work.
Oh, it works. It worked fine. This was on a
not great, but
the snowman from Frozen, I forget his real name, is doing a bunch, and they're interesting. He's doing a bunch of reunited. So he got like Doc McGee and Michael J. Fox together for Back to the Future. And this was Tom Hanks, Ron Howard, and Daryl, what's her name? The mermaid woman.
Daryl
Hannah. So they did a splash thing. And so they brought in that. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, as soon as I saw the blue logo, I'm like, well, okay, we can hear him. So he's got it in the pick it up everything mode or whatever. But I was just like,
there's a YouTube news channel, and they've got multiple reporters in remote locations, and they all use lav mics tied into their DSLRs as they do talking headshots. But they at one point they sent out prop Blue Yetis for them to hold on to, and there's this one guy who just grabs it, and he's holding it wrong, and you can see that it's not plugged in the way he holds it, but he's just milking that prop for everything.
Nice.
But everybody in the network has them.
The snowman is better known as Josh Gad, and he is Olaf. I have no kids, so I just know it's, I want to say Elsie. I forget what the actual lead person in Frozen, and then her sister who wants to build a snowman, and that whole 9 yards. I did watch Frozen 2 because there were so many unanswered questions from Frozen 1, and was like, okay, which is odd because there was
the biggest unanswered question is how much money can we make off
so it's kind of like, all right.
One other thing.
Yeah.
Regarding other recorders other than the Zoom device, Sound Devices on their MixPre 2 line that came out last year released a plugin that does real-time noise suppression on the device, especially for broadband.
What is it?
Real-time noise suppression. You can just dial it in per channel.
From who?
sound devices, the MixPre 2 line.
Oh, nice.
It's a $300 introductory price for the plug-in.
Wow.
But
Wow.
it came down from their higher end 800 series and Scorpio line. The 800 series, I believe, starts at $2,000 for the
Yikes.
device itself. So they brought that pretty quickly down to the consumer level. The noise assist plugin came out at the beginning of the pandemic for the Big Iron.
Well,
And
I know
last week it came out for the prosumer level.
I know there's another, I forget the name of it, but there's some like plug-in for Skype that and it's supposed to work outside of it. I forget the name of it. I heard Harry Duran mention it, but
There's
it's
a video card driver for the new NVIDIA RTX video cards. And the RTX have specific cores that can be programmed. And one of the things they're being programmed for is real-time, in the background noise suppression based on artificial intelligence that just plucks the voice right out of the effect. It's currently in beta. People have been using it. It's a little artifacty, but
Yeah,
it
this-
kills drive-by cars and whatnot.
that was I forget the name of it, but I saw the video one, and it was a woman standing on a balcony outside, and the video just shows them moving a slider, and all of a sudden it just erases everything but her voice. And I was like, oh, that's pretty slick. But it wasn't like a plug-in for, whatever Audition. It was for like Skype or Zoom or whatever.
Puts up some sort of device and the mic feeds into it virtually.
Yeah.
There are a couple of them out there.
Yeah. So awesome. Anything else we can help you with?
Oh, no, not really. Just to get in trouble. Did you see that on June 1st, Hong Kong lost all their civil rights, and podcasting being the only method of left to them to complain about their government?
Give them the signal.
That's right. No, I did like Crisp. That is the name of the thing I was trying to think of. So, and I do realize that Bangs is now. I guess I could kick him out again because I was at Reddit, and like you're wearing that as like a badge of honor. It's like Bangs Naughty Bits dash kicked off Ask the Podcast Coach, and I was like, wait, what? I'm like, is this something we should be charging people for? Come on in and we'll kick you out. I was like, so
maybe it's a paid Patreon level. You can come in. This would be the Jim Rome effect, right? Jim Rome used to buzz and kick people out all the time. Yeah.
No, man. No, I did see that. So it's just not something we're going to talk about on this show, but I appreciate you bringing it up.
Tradition, Dave. Just give
Give me the boot, Dave.
See you,
Ladies and gentlemen, you know him, you love him. Everybody,
Free
Bang.
Hong Kong.
That's hilarious.
Super great. Super great. Hopefully that won't get us booted from YouTube.
Right. And I'm going to go over my Reddit profile. I forgot to ask him. I was going to ask him about.
He's going to say twice.
Maybe
it's a record thing. I do like the Jim Rome. There could be a little like what would you call that? When the audience gets engaged and they all start trying to do the same thing. That could become a segment for this, is where you ask a question, then you have to ask one worthy of getting booted from the show.
I tuned into Jim Rome because when this whole thing first went down, I was kind of like, man, like, what's this guy talking about? There's no sports. And he really just turned it. He was doing some sort of contest with his people, and that was half the show was just him going, and then they have a whole like music bed of I don't like that take, I don't like that take, and it's a whole, and it's like, and it goes on for like 20 seconds, at which point he'd bring somebody else on and they'd be like, hey Jim, first call, and then they'd play the clipping, and it was just him kicking people off the phone for
Ed says in chat, he says, no, I kind of wish I'd get kicked off.
That's it. Look, yeah.
I'm telling you, it could be a thing. It could be a thing. You have to say something worthy of being booted.
Yeah. So, but
that's not new. Like Rome has been doing that forever.
I got kicked off Howard Stern.
Really?
I called Howard Stern. This was years ago because I recorded it on a cassette tape. That's how long ago this was.
Wow.
So I called Howard and got Stuttering John, and I said, hey, I heard Howard say that he bought the book rights to My Brother Sam, which is the book written by Sam Kinnison's brother, and he's thinking about turning it into a movie. I'd like to know if there's an update on that. So Stuttering John's like, okay, cool. Hang on. You're like third in line, but I can't really, he just kind of picks up in whatever, order. So I'm sitting there and all of a sudden I hear, hey, you're on the air with Howard. And I'm like, Howard, hey, this is Dave in Ohio. I was like, hey, Dave. And I'm like, hey, I got a question for you. But before, so I then throw a curveball. I go, before I do, I just wanted to kiss your butt if that's okay. And of course, Howard's like, dude, this is always got time for somebody to kiss my butt. I said, I just want to let you know, I drive around. I'm a copier technician, blah, blah, blah. And you make, and I just start going on. And I just started to try to be funny.
Oh,
and all of a sudden it was, and he's like, and it's him. And he's like, look, man, I appreciate you kissing my butt, but like, get to the point, would you, And so I never got to even ask him my question.
Bummer.
But so I've been kicked off the Howard Stern show. So, yeah. Anyway, what are we doing on time? Well, good. We got 15 minutes left.
What are your plans for the weekend?
I am going to go. I just found out last night. My niece, who has 2 kids, so my great nieces and nephews are going to my brother's house. So my brother's like, "Hey, we're not doing. It's not like an official cookout, but like if you want to come over, I might make you a burger." And so I will probably be headed over there for a little bit today. And I think what I'm going to do is throw my bike. I've been biking my butt off, literally in some cases. It's just been super nice here in Ohio. And I got to the point where it was like, your weight keeps going up and up and up. And we all joke about the COVID-19 where the 19 is how much, how many pounds did you gain? But I was like, I really need to this needs to, we got to get this weight going the other way. And it has been. So,
yeah.
And I almost, it's always fun. We have these paths that used to be on a canal. They used to drag canal boats up and down, well, oddly enough, a canal, but there was a path where the donkeys were that would pull the things, and they've turned those into bike paths. So they're really cool, and you're in the middle of nowhere. And yesterday it happened again. I almost hit a deer on my bike because you have these really thick bushes and stuff, and mama deer popped out and literally got deer in the headlights, even though there were no headlights, as I'm like racing at her at like 13 miles an hour, and I slammed on my brakes, which then made her kids jump out into the path. So I had no place to go. And I was just like, oh, this is going to suck. And luckily I stopped, I don't know, 2 feet from the deer, which is, it was pretty close. And I was like, to the point of like, oh, please don't kick me. And so I stopped. And then without like no sudden movements, I just started backing up back away from the deer, and mom jumped back into the bushes and kids followed. But I was like, did you do you not, we need to get all the deer together and go look left and right before crossing street, use your eyes, use your ears before you move your feet, which I learned when I was 6. And I'm amazed that I still remember that. But
isn't it funny the things like stop, drop, and roll and those kinds of things?
Yeah. And I also went hiking. And I don't know why, but frogs freak me out. I've come to that conclusion.
They're slimy.
They're slimy, and you don't know kind of which way they're going to jump. They're a little bit like grasshoppers that way. And so I found this hiking path. I Googled like Ohio hiking, and there was this thing. It's like 2 miles, and it had stairs in it and things like that. I would just rename it like it was O'Neill Woods, and it should, like, their tagline should be like a great place to break your ankle, because it's just tree roots and everything like that. And I happened to be I'm looking around, and I walked around, and there was a stream that I was kind of walking by, and they have this one spot where there's like this almost like a little pool, and then the stream runs under this little bridge you're under, and sitting on a rock next to the pool was a frog. And I didn't realize it until as I'm walking by, and I freaked him out, and he jumped in. So just to like out of the corner of the eye, see something move and you don't know what it is always like, So what about you? What are you up to? I know you said your son's in from out of town from
they have a big D&D game. They've been playing D&D for the last couple months, and so Dungeons and Dragons is what that is. And so they're over here today. Typically they would be over at my son's house. So they're over here all afternoon. I'm going to try to avoid it if I can. They're going to be having fun. It'll be great. They got the basement all taken over. So game starts as soon as we're done here. They're going to start gaming. But I have been on a mole hunt. And when I mean a mole, not like like a real mole, right? Did I mention this last week in the show?
I remember that because I always said you're like,
yeah,
don't worry.
No, right on. So this week we upped the ante. I got flares. So I've been road flares and then putting them in the holes and letting the hopefully smoking them out literally. And have had moderate success with it so far. So this afternoon I'm going to do some looking around, a little bit of yard work. I may go buy some flowers, something along those lines to celebrate the death of some moles. And
nice.
So then this afternoon, barbecue, grill. On deck. I've got some cigars that I ordered from two guys, Ed's group called the Firecracker, which is super cool. They, by the way, genius. That 1,000 boxes, one time making, right. Only 1,000. It was great marketing, so I bought some. So kids will come over, so we'll enjoy as the fireworks are going on tonight. We'll enjoy one of those. So looking forward to the beauty of this. Of the 4th this year is we have tomorrow. Which is Sunday.
Yeah, to recover.
It's not like we have to go back to work on Monday. So yeah. I'm kind of looking forward to a late evening and some fun stuff outside.
Yeah. Bangs brings up, did you see Chapo Podcast had its subreddit pulled from Reddit last week? Lots of shows and channels purged from Reddit, YouTube last week. And if you're not familiar with Chapo House, I mentioned them in the book coming out next month, Profit from Your Podcast, because they make $157,000 a month. They have 35,000 podcasts or patrons on their account, and I'm dying. Here's the thing that really blew me away about that is I listened to 2 of their episodes. They're a political show, and the only thing I can figure out is they have to be journalists or somebody who had an audience, because I listened to 2 episodes, none of them mentioned their Patreon. I'm like, wait, how are they growing their Patreon if they're not mentioning it? Like, go over, because they have the coolest model. They do 4 episodes. 2 of them are free, 2 of them are not. It's $5. And so I'll be interested to it's one of those things I want to I didn't really care for their show, not because they weren't left or right or whatever. I just it just sounded like I walked into the middle of a movie, which actually was I couldn't remember what I was going to do on the School of Podcasting. That's the theme of this week's episode. I might do the feedback thing too, but that's part of it too. That's a pet peeve of mine, where people do the they're like, this week they're trying to get you to tune in, and they'll be like, this week on the show.
Okay, I'm not in love with that music at all.
And they think like that's supposed to suck you, which actually that might actually suck you into an episode.
Oh, that was. I want to hear, if I got Kim saying that, I want to hear what she's all fucked up about.
But I think a lot of people do that wrong, and they think they have to do that because they hear NPR do it. But that actually might be a subject for the show. That's my new pet peeve, because I've just noticed a lot of people doing it. And my favorite is when they use like a, 2-minute quote. And so it just feels like you literally walked into the middle of the movie and you're like, wait, what are we talking? What? What's the show about? Brett asked the question, what sort of money hold on, let me see if I can find it. I can answer this question. Adam Curry, by the way, was on the New Media Show on Wednesday. So the guy that helped invent podcasting actually did that, and he's not a fan of video, and I found out why. Adam, he's mentioned this. He's it's not like I'm outing him. You just never see it. But he's always said he had Tourette's, and he said, I have a weird tic. And I'm like, I've never seen it. I've met him, I've talked to him, and I never see it. But it's either getting maybe a little more noticeable or what. But there are a couple times in the episode where all of a sudden he'll just blink really hard. And he said, he goes, yeah, I'm not a fan of video. But that show, what they do, No Agenda Show, by the way, noagendashow.com, is a great podcast. They deconstruct the media, and here it is. I'm trying to find, open this up in Adobe Reader. Yada, da, da, da. Okay, let me see if I can find Adam Curry here really quick. Because I basically did what everybody wants to do, which is count. Because they have a thing. He's at the beginning of the episode. Okay. But it doesn't say this. Adam Curry and John C. Dvorak produced the No Agenda Show at noagendashow.com. They have people who join their night program by donating $1,000 or more. They're adding more and more nights and dames for females daily. The show delivers in an entertaining way information that is missing in the mainstream media. Let me see if he's anyplace else here. I thought I did the math on that, but it's substantial because I know the last episode I listened to, they had 3 people that were becoming knights, which means that's 3 people that gave them $1,000. I know I've been giving him $11.11 for years, and I'm pretty sure I'm close to being a knight because it's been, that's it's $100 a year, and I've been listening for probably 10 years. So. But they got 2 guys, and what he said on Todd's show is they don't even look at their numbers. He goes, we just look at our bills paid.
Yeah, that's the right way to do it, I think.
Yeah. So
what are we trying to do? I mean, you can look at the numbers just to see, but I think they're trying to make money. Why would you look at numbers? You would want to look at results. Like, what are you getting? What's your Patreon stuff? What's your whatever? What's your merch? Do they do merch?
Here's what they do. They let their audience do whatever they want. So they have I think No Agenda t-shirts, or it might be No Agenda merch, but they have their audience make artwork. Like, there are guys listening to the show, and the minute the show is done, they make artwork and submit it. No Agenda artgenerator.com, I think it is. And then they pick one, and then anyone that is, and so people can go over there, and the guys from like the No Agenda t-shirt, whatever, will take the artwork and turn it into a t-shirt, and 30% goes towards the person that made the artwork. 30% goes for the t-shirt guys. That's them. And then 30% go to Adam and John. Yeah. So it's, and they're like, yep, we're fine with that. Go ahead. Cause it all helps promote the show.
Totally.
And, so yeah, it's an interesting show. If I had any kind of criticism, but they do it in an entertaining way. They do thank every person above $50 that donates money, and there are times when that segment gets really long.
Yeah,
and it's like when you actually, I was tempted the one day to download an episode and see how much was actually show, because I was going to say it was a good 50%, if not 60%, them thanking people in 40% show, and I was kind of like, I'm getting a little tired of hitting fast forward because. It's like, but they have, I mean, that's where I got the infamous, let me turn up the phone, Jim's favorite sound effect. That came from the No Agenda show, the goat scream. Yeah.
It's brutal.
It's a fun show. If you, I do listen to it, but yeah, Adam was really cool. And he talked about how they, how long it takes them to create an episode and their whole thing. So I thought that was a better interview than the one on Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan spent too much time trying to make him look like a crazy dude because he doesn't have a smartphone. And I was like, there are so many things you could talk about. I'm dying for somebody. I would love to have him on like a Jen Briney show, like on Congressional Dish, because it's the guy that studies the government all the time. And yet nobody asks him about, like, what surprises you most about the government? Like, what are the things that you see happening that you think should be covered on the mainstream media that are not? I would love to have that. I would love to have him on my show. It made me think, I'm like, maybe he's trying to promote the show. Maybe I should, because I've asked him. Yeah. Cause all he can say is no usually, or in his case, all he can say is nothing. He never, I wish he would say, no, thank you. I think one time he actually said, I'm not really promoting anything right now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you're never promoting anything, but I did get a question in, cause I was watching it live. And so he always jokes about writing a book. And so Todd was like, hey, Dave Jackson wants to know, are you actually writing a book this time? And he's thinking about it. He was like, he would rather do like an audio book. Of course, that makes sense to him. So
I'd rather do a podcast.
But yeah, he said, it was a great interview. No IAB stats for Adam. He tracked the petabytes of data being transferred, which is what, above terabytes?
Yes. Yeah. Terabytes, petabytes. It's 1,000. I think it's 1,000 terabytes.
Which is a lot of.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
No?
Well, I mean,
for a podcaster though?
Oh yeah. I'm just thinking when we used to think, I remember 15 years ago when we thought a terabyte was just a lot of space or a lot of anything. Today, Facebook measures its throughput in petabytes daily. So there's not, I mean, you kind of, it's a big deal for a podcaster though. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Banks wants to know, he says there are 2 upvotes on the stream, and I know one of them is mine. So I demand to know, was it Dave or Jim that did the upvote of their own stream? I did not.
I haven't either.
I don't see it. I need to go do it now. We could probably get up to 4 by the time we
should
this thing.
Should we be doing that? I guess it's a thing. We don't ask for it. I started asking for it on the Gala podcasts in the live show, because I think there's a greater value to us of people being notified when the show is going live than versus going to the recorded channel. So, and you know what? You ask and people do it. So,
Well, and eventually this episode goes unlisted because it's just for the patrons. I used to download it, chop off the last half hour, and I had 2 versions of it. And it took a huge amount of time. And I just went, let's just make this patron only kind of thing.
That's smart.
And then what I started doing too is askthepodcastcoach.com/live during the week points at my Patreon page, and then /join points at the new meeting, the next week's thing, so they can subscribe and get notified in that whole thing. So
send it to a page on Patreon that explains that, like, you've landed here because it's only available to. I think I landed over there. I didn't know why I'd gone to Patreon.
It's not a bad idea.
So maybe you can
make a page that says, "Hey,
page." Yeah. Like, you come here because, you've been looking for the live program that's available to our Patreons at this support level. Jump in and join us or join us live.
We need to do this next week. Then it exposes you to more people on the YouTubes in the live category. And then interesting. YouTube, Daniel says, can trim to a new video. I need to look into that because I was doing that for a while, and then YouTube changed their interface, and it used to be super easy to just drag, drop, trim, save to new, and then the new version was not that easy. So I need to there are a couple things I need to do with YouTube. They have a YouTube Academy. I mean, I've taken a course on YouTube from another guy, but they have their own academy. And it's just, that's actually on my list of many things. Like, half the technology I have or use, there's more that I could learn that would probably help me. Like, I use SendFox for my email. They keep adding new features, and it's always like, oh yeah, I need to go see that and see if I would use that feature. I use Thinkific for the School of Podcasting. They add new features all the time, and I'm like, there's probably things I'm doing or would use if I would just take the time to learn my own technology. So, that's all it needs, is that free time stuff that we always talk about. So.
Yeah, the alerts work. Like, when you have people subscribe, I just got the premiere of Cigar Authority pop up like, hey, it's getting ready to go live. You might want to jump over there. Those do work when you get sign up for them.
Bank says no one likes the new studio. Yeah, I did not. And I used to constantly switch to the old one and say,
yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. And then it was always interesting because the new video was the one that was public, which had no likes, which had no data on it. And then the one for the patrons was the one that nobody could see. And I was like, so it's that. And I was trying to have my channel have more YouTube-esque kind of content that's, 5 minutes or less ish kind of thing. So I was playing with different things, but
we got a dislike on our video this morning. I'm heartbroken.
That's it. That's what. You know what? It's been fun. 301 episodes. Thanks, everybody.
I'm out.
We would like to take this time to thank everyone. We're done. That's it. People always wondered, what would it take?
Ungrateful listeners.
You freaking, that's it.
I did like it. I did like it. So, we have 8. Just jumped up to 8. See, it works.
That's it.
It works when you give it. And maybe it works when we give it our own thumbs up. So
that's it. So, all right.
Have a good
week. Thanks, man. Good
Keep
seeing you.
Hands and fingers, or fingers and toes intact. For
exactly. And we'll be back. We'll be back next week.
All right, we'll see you guys next week.
See everybody.
Take care.
Take care.